Consistent self-improvement, everybody. You are now listening to American gypC Podcast. I am your host, Classic, and I am here with my co-host,
gypC. And today we have a special guest, Fletcher Ellingson. Sorry, probably should have asked before we got started. Hopefully, I didn't butcher
You
that.
got it. You got it right.
Okay. He's a speaker, coach, and creator of the practice of feeling good in business and life. Welcome to the show, Fletcher.
Nice to have
Thanks for
you.
having me.
Nice to have you. Nice to have you.
So, I know we talked about, I guess we can start with what you do with the
hmm
practice of feeling good, because I did want to get into straight into the whole rejection experiment, but I'm like,
Yeah,
wait.
facing fear. Yeah.
Let the audience get to know you and what you do first, and then we can get into that stuff.
Yeah, you bet. So first of all, super fun to be here. Thank you for having me on, and thanks for reaching out. And I love what you guys are up to. I just want to say up front, I love the podcast space. I love what it's bringing to the global table. I am all about evolving our thinking,
Mhm.
and this ability that we have in this age of technology is incredible. That we can talk to people all around the world. I know you guys we're in different states, but we are aligned in our mission, like to uh, elevate people, to uplift others, right? I mean, to bring meaningful conversations. So I just want to acknowledge you two for what you are doing.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
really
you.
valuable. I appreciate it, and I don't say that lightly. Like, I don't read the news. I
Me
don't read the
neither.
news anymore. Gave it up.
Yeah.
Um, this is where I put my energy in connecting with others like you guys who are like, we got a mission. I don't know what your mission is personally, but I know it's got to be somehow aligned with mine, because in making the world a better place, because we're here talking. So thank you for what you do.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah. And so the practice of feeling good. So gypC, you asked, what do I do?
Yeah.
In a nutshell, I help people change the way they think. I help people change the way they process data that is coming into their brain. I help people change the story that they have in their mind from disempowering to empowering. I help people change the way they think about their health, wealth, and relationships so they can live a life fulfilled and have what I call a spillover effect. They feel so fulfilled in their life that their cup is literally overflowing, and anybody who gets in their proximity is going to be affected for the better. That's what I do.
I can relate to that feeling.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on. Yeah. And while people may hear me say, like, what do you mean you help people change their thinking? What I mean in a very literal sense is my clients begin thinking different thoughts than they've ever thought in their life. What I mean by that is, you have these things called neural pathways in your brain,
Yes.
right? And synapses and connections, like billions of them, trillions of them. I help people form new neural pathways, and that allows different thinking to take place. And therefore, when you get new thinking, you get access to taking new actions, and then new actions, as we all know, leads to different results in your life. And so that's, in a nutshell, gypC, that's what I do.
So what led you to wanting to focus in this area?
Yeah, that is such a great question. I just had this epiphany the other night. Um, I mean, I've known why I wanted to do it, but I'll share with you my epiphany. This was literally just a few nights ago. Because in grade school, junior high, high school, I didn't quite know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't have any strong calling,
Mm-hmm.
right? but I was definitely interested in philosophy, religion, those things. I was interested in deep conversations. I was a bit of an oddball, to say the least, right? I was reading Norman Vincent Peale's The Power of Positive Thinking while I was in third or fourth grade. I remember the day my dad walked out of the house. I was sitting on the stoop, and it was a sunny day, and I was reading a book. He's like, "Hey, Fletch, what you reading?" I was like, "The Power of Positive Thinking," and he just stopped. He's like, "Wait, by Norman Vincent Peale?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Man, you are an odd kid," right?
Yeah.
So at a very early age, I was in this conversation already. There was something that attracted me. But then going through the regular school curriculum, there was nothing. There was nothing that attracted me. There was nothing for an odd kid who was interested in this thing called personal development. Right? There were no classes in high school about personal development. There was nothing in college about, the practice of feeling good. And yet this is what I was attracted to. And so as I went to college, dropped out of college, went back to college, went to Europe, went in to be a pastor, and then left all that behind. What I realized was, and then I got deep into personal development. I realized, like, wow, there's nothing in our school system to foster this. And which is why so many of my clients, have never heard this conversation before about evolving your thinking, about personal development. You got to go to like a Tony Robbins seminar or read Zig Ziglar. You got to do something like that seems on the fringe, right?
Yeah.
And but this is what I'm all about now. So, but it started at an early age, and now I feel like I'm like in my element.
So when you're helping people, is it one-on-one or is it in a group setting? How does
Yeah, both. So I have a lot of one-on-one clients. I do seminars. My wife and I have done some seminars together. Fortunately, my wife is as big a nerd as I am when it comes to personal development. we are like in this together. So she's awesome. Yeah, same for you guys.
Yeah.
Right on. That's the best, right?
Yeah.
Right?
The best. The best.
To have someone that gets you on that level, right? And by the way, it doesn't mean that I've got it all figured out. I'm like constantly evolving, and I don't mean evolving from a bogadacious manner. I mean, like, I'm simply on the journey, and I'm open to learning. I'm open to improving, and believe me, so much of my improvement comes from so much of my poor judgment in the past, right? It's just like, I'm not saying I'm out here making grand decisions. No, my good decision making comes from all the poor decision making I've done in the past.
I can relate.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot.
You learn the most from your failures. So.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. So that's I got into it early, and now I'm just full steam ahead, and I'm enjoying it, because really the fun part is getting to be a part of seeing people transform their lives. And when I say transform, because I know it's a word we throw around a lot, like I'm into transformation, I'm a transformative coach. That's great, but what does it really mean? What does it really mean to like a regular person? You're going to transform your wealth. You're going to transform your health. You're going to transform your relationships. What does that actually mean? Transformation is not fixing something. It's not about changing something. It's about becoming something that you haven't been before, right? The very worn out analogy is the caterpillar becoming the butterfly. It's not like this is a caterpillar with wings. No, it actually transformed, right? It went through a dramatic transformational process. There was nothing to fix. There was nothing to, it didn't change. It literally transformed into another being. And so when I talk about transformation, that's what I'm talking about. My clients literally transform their finances. Like their finances don't look anything like they used to look like. Their relationships or a relationship, it doesn't resemble what it used to look like. It is something different. It is something new. It is not changed or fixed. It has become something new. My wife and I used to lead this seminar called Diabetes Smackdown, the ultimate solution. And it was for people who either had type 2 diabetes or who were at risk at type 2 diabetes. And we would have people come to this seminar who were, they've tried everything. And we weren't telling them about what to eat or how to exercise. They already knew that. They could tell us. What they didn't know was, and this is the very words out of their mouth, is, I don't know why I can't do what I know I need to do. Right? And so what we helped them understand was it wasn't their fault. They were simply responding to the programs in their mind. The programs were running their life. And so what we had helped them do was to develop new programs. We literally helped them set up new programs. So it's like installing software into your computer. Like, hey, put this into your USB drive, upload this to your computer, and you have a new program that will get a different result. That's the process that we help people do. Mm-hmm. We help them develop new programs, and then suddenly they have access to new actions and new outcomes. And in fact, I mean, some of their most dramatic, just to give you an example, as a result of one of these seminars, we had three of the women that I'm thinking about. They depressed, medications, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, blah, 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 on and on and on and on. When they discovered what was running their life, and when they began to create new programming, meaning new ways of thinking, the doctors were blown away. Their blood pressure came down. Their blood sugars came down. They began coming off their medications. Their depression literally dissipated. And these three women that I'm thinking of all signed up and completed their first ever triathlon. Swimming, biking, and running. This was not on their radar. Our true transformation, like this was something they never thought was possible and was not even on their radar. And one of the women was 70 years old. Like total transformation because we shifted their psychology. And that's what I mean by transformation. That was a long answer, but you're going to find out that I get really passionate about this stuff because it's our lives that are at stake here, right? Yeah. And it's our lives, and it's, I only got one of them. I want to make the most of it.
So you mentioned the age 70. My parents just had both had their 70th birthday. How would you introduce this program to someone like them?
Oh, wonderful conversation. Good question. So when people hop on a discovery call, so I take it from the position that there's never anything wrong with your life. There really isn't. Mm-hmm. I actually believe there's nothing wrong with anybody's life. But what about the people who are, in prison? There's nothing wrong with that. You see, one of the things that I do in my coaching curriculum is we throw out all the labels. There's no good, bad, right, or wrong. There's no good or evil. We throw all the labels out because, in my opinion, the labels have caused massive suffering in our life. So we throw them out. The only question that I concern myself with and that I encourage my clients to concern themselves with is this: does this serve my life? Does it serve my life? If it doesn't serve my life, then let's get curious. Is there something else I could do? Is there another way that I could be? Is there another outcome that I would like to focus on? You're not broken. I believe every single person is perfect, whole, and complete, just as they are. There's lots of ways to live your life. This is just one way of living my life. Fletcher Ellingson, the practice of feeling good, that's just one way of a plethora of ways of living life. You each have your way of living life. Nothing wrong, nothing right about it, nothing good or bad. The question is the way I'm living my life, does it serve me? Does it feel good? Does it move me forward or does it hold me back? Do I feel expressed or do I feel, confined? Those are the important questions. It's not about good, bad, right, or wrong. It's about, does this serve my life? And so to your question, Classic, it's like to somebody who's kind of like their runway is getting shorter and shorter and shorter, right? Mm-hmm. It's the question is like, hey, in this time that you have left, is there another way you'd like to be? Is there another outcome you'd like to produce? If not, that's okay. Mm-hmm. Right? Again, some people are like, hell, it's been a good run, good enough. I'll be fine if we check out tomorrow. And others are like, right, shit, I got another 10, 12, 15 years. Like, what could we do with that? Right?
Right.
Yeah.
And what do you feel like is the most common, I guess, blocker that people have from achieving,
yeah,
from feeling good?
It is not understanding how this thing called our brain works. Because when in school did we learn about it? We don't even know most of us do not know what is running our lives. Most of us, I'm just making this number up, but I would say, high 90% of people on this planet Earth, they don't understand what's influencing their decision making. If you don't even know what's influencing your decision making, that's going to be a block for achieving the outcomes you want in your life. Now, some people listening to this podcast may be like, well, what does he mean? Like, I know what's influencing my decision making. Do you really? Can you say it? Do you know what's influencing your decision making? Can you just like literally say it right now? Yeah. Because if you can't, you don't know. There are very specific things. And that's what I teach people, like, this is literally the things that influencing your every single decision. What time you get up in the morning, if you press snooze when the alarm goes off, do you have coffee or tea? Do you have sugar or milk? Or do you drink the drink that you guys were having tonight? Like, you guys, we all have our drink here tonight, right?
Right.
Like, something influenced us. And it's the same thing that influences every single decision. So once we understand what's influencing our decision making, once we understand it, it ceases to manage us, and we begin to use it to manage the outcomes that we desire. It's extremely powerful. I mean, it literally, like, I just got a call from one of my clients just 3 days ago. And he said, he was like, I'm excited to tell you, this was my best year in business ever by a long shot. And I said, well, what do you think? What do you attribute that to? He's like, everything I learned in this coaching course. I learned how my brain works. I learned what was influencing my decision making. And so I was able to reach out to more clients. I was able to communicate in a way that I had never communicated before. I got clear about what my standards were. I got clear about my outcomes. I understand now what discipline is. I understand what willpower is. I redefined success. I understand the voice in my head, and that the voice in my head is not me. He got clear on a ton of stuff. Basically, an understanding of how the brain works. And because, again, and I just ask you, like, did you guys ever go in any of your elementary, junior high, or high school classes, did you guys ever understand that there was a class on how the brain works?
No.
No, hell no. I didn't
Nothing
even
other
get that
than
in
the basic
college,
science and
right?
the analogy of the brain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, depending on what some of the classes you took, you might have got an introduction to it. But I mean, this thing is like the most complicated computer on the planet Earth, and we don't. And it's in us. It runs us, but we don't have the user manual for it. What would happen if you got a user manual for it? What would be possible? Right?
Right.
That's exciting. I don't even remember what the question was.
I think I was asking, like, what are some of the biggest blockers? I think.
Oh yes, yeah. The biggest blocker is like the brain, like our limited understanding of how it works. And is the brain the same as the mind? It's not.
Actually, you just said the voice in your head, and that's not you. And I've heard, your thoughts are not yours. Like, what do you mean by that? Because I think you hear it, but there's levels of understanding. So what is your understanding?
And even the difference between the mind and the brain.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking that. Can I run you through a quick example?
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. So you guys, I'm going to ask you some questions, okay? You guys both just shout out your answers. Don't give it any thought. This is not, there's no good, bad, there's no right or wrong answer here. I'm not looking for an answer, honestly. This is not a trick. Just say the first thing that comes to your mind, okay? When I say, so the first thing that comes to your mind, Christmas.
Lights.
Reindeer.
Light? What'd you say, classic?
Reindeer for some reason. Reindeer.
Reindeer, okay, all right. Butterfly.
Flying.
Caterpillar.
Okay.
Flying was it was for me.
All right, dog.
Doberman.
Yeah, that's the same for me, Doberman.
Okay, all right. Snorkeling.
Now.
Ocean.
Okay.
Ocean.
Podcast.
Freedom.
Microphone.
Okay, perfect. Now, so what just happened was the mind was using you. It's not good, bad, right, or wrong. What happened was I said a word, and your mind looked back. It gapped backward. It was like it's like Google. Like you type in something, and it's going to give you a list of things that hopefully match. I just said a word. Your mind just went back into the archives and said, Christmas. What do we know about Christmas? Bring forth something that has to do with Christmas. Right? It's not asking you. It's not consulting with gypC and saying like, what does Christmas mean to me? No, it's just like, oh, present. Oh, lights. Oh, tree. Oh, Santa Claus. It's just there. That's the mind using you. A quick association, right? We're not like sitting down with our coffee and getting deep about it, like, Christmas, what does that mean, right? We're not having your mind just comes up with something. Now, here's an example of you using your mind, okay? What I want you to do is just play with me here, close your eyes, and I want you to think of the Empire State Building. Have you got a picture of that in your mind?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. All right. Now I want you to picture yourself at ground level of the Empire State Building. And you're looking up at it. You're like, man, that's high. That is high. And then you realize that on your body, you've got all this climbing gear. Like, wow, where the hell did that come from? Well, I don't know, but it's on me. And then you literally start climbing. You're like roped in, you're safe. There's no chance of falling, but you're roped in and you're You're climbing the Empire State Building. It's like there's a big rope is attached to the top, and you're just like climbing, hand over hand, hand over hand. You're getting some height now. You're looking around. You're like, wow, this is awesome. Look at all the buildings. Wow, there's a crowd forming down there. They're like shouting stuff to me. Hey, there's some camera people down there. Like, what are these crazy people doing? But you just keep climbing. You know you're safe. You're completely safe. Hand over hand. There's a level of ease by which you're climbing. In fact, people down there are remarking to each other, like, how are they climbing so easily? It's like they're superheroes. And you're climbing. You got gloves on, so it's easy. Oh, it's a beautiful sunny day. Now you're about 3/4 of the way up and you're looking around. You're like looking around the city of New York. You've got this incredible view that most people don't ever have. You're seeing like the skyline. Oh man, it's incredible. Buildings glistening in the sun. People down below. And then you look up at the top. And you're like, yeah, here we go. Going all the way. You're going all the way to the top now. You're not even afraid. You're like, this is a done deal. I've got it. This is just fun. I'm going all the way to the top, and now you're at the top. You're at the top. And you break out a sign. You break out a sign that you had tucked away in your back pouch. And you're totally harnessed in, secured in, so you can let go with both hands. And you open up a big sign that says, American gypC. Tune in. All right. So the visualization's over now. You can go ahead and open your eyes. But could you see that?
I could visualize it.
Yeah.
Almost
So
like
that was you.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, like Spider-Man, right? So that was you, Classic, using the brain, using your mind. It wasn't using you. You were calling the shots there. You said, I have this incredible capacity to imagine, to create, to visualize. And your brain responded. That is an incredible tool that to our knowledge, that no other animal has on this planet. Now, unfortunately, most people don't use that tool.
Visualization.
Yes. See, the brain cannot tell the difference between what's real and what's not real. The brain literally cannot tell the difference between what's real and what's not real. When you go to the movie theater and you sit down, you got your popcorn and your drink or whatever, and the movie comes on, and you're like, all right, this is going to be good. You're all ready. And 10, 12, 15 minutes into the movie, you're laughing. You're just like, oh man, that was a good one. You're laughing, you're cracking up. And then 20 minutes later, you're crying. Like, oh my God, this is so sad. Right? And you're like choking back tears. And then another 15 minutes, you're like, oh, you're on the edge of your seat. You're like, oh my God, what the hell are they going to do? How are they going to get out of this? You know, your heart rate is actually speeded up. I mean, you might even be perspiring, right? You might even be a little shaky. And then a few minutes later, you're laughing again. There's some comedy relief. And then the show ends. You just went through a roller coaster of emotions because you were staring at something that was simply light projected on a screen. It was not even real. Even back in Hollywood, it was actors. There was a light crew, a sound crew. They were calling cut. Oh my God, can we do that scene again? People are cracking up. There's a blooper reel. Our mind is incapable of telling the difference between what is real and what's not. Whatever you focus on, you feel. This is one of the core messages of my curriculum. Whatever you focus on, you feel. Whatever you focus on expands, and whatever you continue to focus on, you attract and manifest into your life. And so and again, this is why when you go to sleep at night, your brain releases a chemical that kind of paralyzes the body, so that you don't start getting up and acting out your dreams. Right? I mean, it's why people wet the bed, talk in their sleep. Sometimes people even get up and walk in their sleep. Your brain cannot tell the difference. If we know that, could we just start feeding our brain like incredibly powerful, empowering messages and hack the brain?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's pretty wicked, isn't it?
How long does it usually take?
Yeah, my curriculum is a year. Why is it a year? Because I believe that it takes a solid year to begin to transform your thinking. Meaning, again, remember, not changing or fixing your old way of thinking, but to set up new neural pathways and to begin to actually think thoughts that you've never thought or believed before. So my clients actually begin thinking in a way that they didn't think before. And that's why they can produce radically different outcomes in their life. I mean, isn't that wild? Isn't it exciting to think about? It's like, so, I mean, every time I get this, it's like, holy shit. This is the keys to the kingdom, right?
Yeah.
This is, I mean, we talk about wanting to create an incredible life. This is actually the keys to it. It's like, I mean, and by the way, I'm talking from personal experience, because I've been through some tough times. I've been an entrepreneur my entire life, since I was in elementary school, building businesses, paper route, my window washing business. I mean, I've been our business that we made all natural soaps, lotions, and I mean, I've always been creating. The tech company that I was a part of, always an entrepreneur. And I had some really hard times. One of my businesses crashed and burned, put my heart and soul into it, crashed and burned to the ground. I had to walk away with $20,000 worth of credit card debt. A family of 5, a mortgage, $0 in the bank. And I remember we're like qualifying for food stamps, and we got those food stamps the one time that we used them. And I remember we was our local Safeway. And I went in there, and at first I was like, thank God we got these. Went up to the counter, and remember, like we actually gave them. They're like, oh, you can't use that. You can only use these for certain products. Fuck. I felt so humiliated. Like, fuck. Here I am on public assistance, and I'm just like, I gotta put certain products back now. And it was then that I vowed, I will never, ever, ever be in this position again. I'm going to change. Something's got to change right now. And so I dug deep into personal development so that I could transform my thinking. And things turned out pretty damn good. But you know what? I couldn't have got here without those trials and tribulations.
Understood.
Right? I could not have got there without it.
And the brain is one of the most powerful things that you have, and the tools that you have to help you get out of almost every situation, as long as you can think and function properly. So
You got it. You got
definitely understand, the importance of the brain.
it. Right on. So anyways, yeah, so now that's what I'm doing now, is I'm just helping people. I'm helping people along that journey, for people who really want to transform their thinking. I've got a curriculum, and that's what we do. And the good news is that people get dramatic results. And I'm not talking just about financially, but like, can you imagine like mending relationships in your life? that you thought were like just toast, like beyond repair. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And of course, we're all about self-improvement and consistent self-improvement. So it's definitely in the familiar feeling and same energy as well.
Yeah. Give me the opening, because I loved your opening
Oh
to the
yeah,
podcast. What
it's
is it?
consistent self-improvement. Yeah.
Yes.
And we
Yes.
have like it's a logo, and we have merchandise based on it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Consistent self-improvement, right?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
baby steps, little by little, right?
Yeah.
And what are some of the links to your work and some of the links to your project and everything?
Yeah, you bet. So the best way to get a hold of me and check out what I'm doing, or schedule a discovery call, or just seeing, is this guy for real or what? Go to FletcherEllingson.com, or you can go to thepracticeoffeelinggood.com. Thepracticeoffeelinggood.com will lead you to FletcherEllingson.com.
Okay.
See, because I really do believe it's about the practice of feeling good.
I did want to talk about fear, because I feel like that's something that gets in the way of a lot of people's goals. And I know
Yes.
you've done an experiment, and I just, what is that experiment, and how? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So you're talking about the rejection experiment I did. So it was a
Yeah.
year in my life where I was like, hey, I mean, things are going well, but I'm realizing that I'm coming up against myself. What's this thing that I'm coming up against? And what I realized, it was a fear of rejection. So in one of the businesses that I helped grow, it was a technology business. I needed to be in constant outreach. I needed to be in constant, like, picking up the phone, connecting, networking, asking for sales, asking for the meeting. And and I was reaching out to some big players, like billion-dollar companies. And I'm not a billion-dollar person. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things in my mind was like, well, they're going to reject you. They've never heard of your name. They don't know anything about you. Why would they give you the time of day? And so sometimes I would sabotage myself. I would kill the endeavor before I got started. And what I realized was, like, Fletcher, you are afraid. You're living from a place of fear. Your fear of rejection is impeding your business and therefore your life. If you're fearful of being rejected, where else is fear showing up? Right. And so I really got, so I was like, I want to become a master asker. Can you imagine if you were a master asker? Like, you could just ask for anything, anytime, of anyone. Like, there was no hesitation, right? I mean, some people go to a restaurant and they order something, they're expecting it to be just so, and they get it, and it's not just so. There's something wrong with it. It's not hot enough. Maybe there's something in it. Something's off. But most of us, we're not even willing to, like, hey, could you guys redo this for us, please?
Right.
Oh, I don't want to put somebody out. Oh, they might think I'm being greedy or ungrateful. Oh, they might spit my. No. In the smallest things, we are afraid of being rejected. We are not practiced at asking for what we want. So I decided I've got to become a master asker. I've got to manage this fear of rejection. And so what I began doing is a rejection experiment, where I specifically and purposely put myself into situations where I would make ridiculous and audacious requests of people that would likely or could offend them, or would just be so asinine that they would reject me. They would tell me, no, or get the hell out of here, or what the hell are you talking about? But absolutely no. They were so obvious. My request would have to be so ridiculous that they were almost guaranteed to reject me. And in doing so, I would have become like Teflon. I'd become desensitized to it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you, it was one of the most significant things I've ever done in my life. Because I was out of my, so there were just a few rules to this experiment. Number one, the experiment had to make me uncomfortable. The ask would have to make me uncomfortable. I couldn't just be like, I couldn't ask for something like if it didn't make me uncomfortable. I had to get uncomfortable. And number two, it was going to be, they were highly probable to say no. Okay. So that was the other thing. And number three, I couldn't do it to impress anybody. So like, I couldn't go out to a restaurant with my friends and say, hey, you guys, watch what I'm about to do.
Right.
Couldn't be that, right? And the other one was I couldn't tell the person why I was making this request. So with that in mind, I set off and I did some pretty crazy things. And the lessons I learned have served me well. I'll never forget them. This is one of the biggest things I've ever, or most meaningful things I've ever done in my life. But I'll give you an example. Some of them were really simple. Like the guy who came to one year, we got a ton of snow, and it was more snow than I cared to shovel, and I didn't have a snow blower, so I called somebody, and the guy came and shoveled. And then I asked, and after he was done, I was like, "Hey, thanks. What do I owe you?" Paid him, and it's like, "Hey, one other thing. Would you be willing to come over here in the yard and make snow angels with me?" And the guy was, and this is what usually happened when I would ask people these things. There would be a bit of silence, and then they would say, "What?" Because it's a total pattern interrupt to their brain.
Yeah.
This is not, they're not expecting it, and their brain is just like, let me catch up for a second. Wait, what did he say? Because I thought he said something about snow angels, right? So I was like, yeah, would you be willing to come out here and make some snow angels in the front yard with me, right? So that's one. And he said no. He cracked up, and he said, I said, are you sure? He's like, no. He's like, yeah, I got this cold, but maybe if I didn't have this cold, I would, right? And I was like, okay, well, thanks, man. So that was like an easy one. But then they just got progressively more challenging. So like, I was on a plane going down to Mazatlan, Mexico, and it was during this time when I was doing the rejection experiment, and I was like, I'm going to have to do some rejection experiments in Mexico. Well, what can I do? So I thought, oh, I got one. So when we landed and we got to the resort, really nice resort, I found a sales manager who sold the timeshares at the resort where we were staying.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know me. Like, I don't speak Spanish. He doesn't know me. And I said, hey, Mario, could I have 5-10 minutes of your time? If it goes beyond that, it's on you, but I just want 5 or 10 minutes. So here was my goal. I'm going to ask this guy if I can lead his sales meeting to all his agents who sell timeshares down there. All right? He does. Why would he let me? But we get talking, we're having a good time, we're laughing. And he's like, would Wednesday morning be okay? Would that work for you to come and lead our sales meeting? Because I'd really love to have you come and do this. And not only that, I'm going to make it mandatory that all 50 of my agents come and participate. So I didn't get the no, I got the yes, and it was a big yes.
Yeah.
And then he finds out during the course of the presentation, he finds out that my wife is a family physician, and he's like, health and vitality are really important to me, and I want to impart that to our agents because they need to have a lot of good energy because their job is so demanding, and I want them to be on. And I know it has a lot to do with what they eat and how they fuel their body and their blah blah blah. Would your wife be willing to come and do like a 30-minute talk on Friday morning?
Wow.
And so then we came back on Friday morning, and my wife gave another talk.
Wow.
And I mean, we are on vacation making I just made a ridiculous request. It should have turned into a no, turned into a yes. And then can you also do this? Right.
Yeah.
I mean, so you
That's
just
awesome.
don't know what's going to happen until you ask for it, until you make the request. One of the scariest ones I did was, this is one I actually chickened out on. So I was in Starbucks, I was in line, and got my coffee, and then I thought, I'm going to ask somebody to have a complete stranger to have a staring contest with me. And I knew it as soon as I thought it, my heart started racing. I was like, oh, that's scary. That's uncomfortable. Right. And so I kind of surveyed the lounge there, and I identified someone who was sitting over there by themselves. And I was like, oh, I don't really want to do this. I was like, really, this is not fun. That's intimate. But I walked over to this person who was sitting there. They were sitting right by an exit. And just before I opened my mouth, I turned and walked out the door. It was too much. And I walked straight to my car. I got in my car. I turned it on. I pulled out of the driveway, drove around the block, got to the stop sign, and realized what was going on. My brain just took over. My mind just took over. I was not present. My brain just said, this is a dangerous situation and you need to get the hell out of here.
Your subconscious.
And, yeah. And so I was like, Fletcher, this is exactly why you've got to do this. You are simply afraid of making a request of a stranger. You are afraid of being vulnerable. You're afraid of a moment of intimacy with somebody you don't know. I was like, God, I got to do this now. So I drove back around the block, got in the parking lot. I can actually feel the anxiety right now. Just thinking back to that. Went to the door, like, let's do this. Went up to that person, sat down. I said, hey, my name is Fletcher. I was wondering, would you be willing to take a few seconds and have a staring contest with me? The first person to blink loses. And guess what? Guess what they said?
What?
They said what? And they said, what? I said, yeah, my name is Fletcher. I was wondering if you'd be willing to take a few seconds to have a staring contest with me. The first person to blink loses. And there was a pause, and then they said, okay. So we had this staring contest. And I don't remember who blinked first, but after that, I went back in my car and was just like, oh my goodness. I'm so glad that one's over. And it doesn't even seem like such a big deal when you're relaying the story, right? It seems like so easy.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you two more, okay? Also in a coffee shop, I tapped on the shoulder of somebody in the line in front of me, and I said, excuse me, do you mind if I take cuts in front of you for no good reason? Same thing. Excuse me? I was wondering if I could take cuts in front of you for no good reason. I threw in the no good reason because it had to be ridiculous and audacious. It's not because I was in a hurry, not because I had to get to the hospital, not because I was running late to a meeting. It was for no good reason. Can I simply get in front of you in the line? And she thought about it. She's like, okay. I said, oh, thanks. And then what happened was really interesting. She said, do you want to take cuts in front of my friend who's now in front of you? And I said, well, sure. And her friend turned around and said, I don't think so. Why would I give you cuts? And I said, okay. But after I got my coffee and I was putting my stuff in it and they had taken their seat, I was walking out, and the friend who was kind of upset, she stopped me. She said, hey, I'm curious, why did you do that? And so I sat down and had the discussion with her and told her, right? I didn't tell her ahead of time because that's one of my rules.
Right.
Yeah.
But she asked me, it's like, and so we got into this wonderful conversation about it, about what we're talking about now, like becoming a master asker, like getting rid of this fear of rejection. And it was really interesting. So a lot of I had those numbers lots of times, but the one I think that takes the cake is when I was in LA, where you guys are, and I was visiting my in-laws. By the way, if I'm down there, I'm going to have to look you guys up.
Definitely.
And we'll go grab a cup of coffee, and we can have a staring contest with strangers. Okay.
For sure.
But I was down in LA, and I was going for my morning walk in a neighborhood that I clearly didn't know. I mean, I was down there just visiting. And off to my left, I saw this house, and the house was kind of up on a higher elevation, and so there's a driveway that went up, and it was situated so that I could see in their garage, and the garage door was open, and I saw a ping pong table there. Well, I love playing ping pong. As soon as I saw that, I was like, oh no, please don't make me do that. But I knew as soon as I saw it, I had to do it. As soon as I hear that voice that says, don't do this, because here's the other thing, you guys, when I was doing these experiments, you want to get really present to how loud your voice can be. Oh man, the voice in my head was constantly like, Fletcher, do not do this one. Do it, pick a different one. This is not a good one. You don't have to prove anything. There's other options. My voice is going off without my permission, without my consent, without my approval. My voice is not my friend. Like if my voice was incarnate, if it was like an actual human being, I'd be like, that person there, I do not want on my team. They are not my friend. Right?
Yeah.
And that's what the voice was saying. Walk away, keep walking. I was like, oh, I got to do it now. So this one was particularly challenging because I had to cross a physical boundary that belonged to somebody else. I had to cross onto their physical property, and I had to go walk up to their door. And I knocked on the door, and there was a dog barking and some commotion, and there was a few seconds, and a lady opened the door about this much because the dog was there barking, and it's like, can I help you? I said, yeah, my name's Fletcher Ellingson. I live in Washington State. I'm just up here visiting some people. I saw the ping pong table in your garage. I was wondering, would you or anyone else in your household be interested in playing some ping pong this morning? What'd she say?
What?
Exactly. She's like, what? My name's Fletcher. I'm from Washington State. Up here visiting, saw the ping pong. I love playing ping pong. Anybody interested in some ping pong this morning? And she's like, do we know you? I was like, no, I'm from Washington State. I'm just visiting my family a few blocks down. Anybody interested? Just a second. She closes the door. Muffled voice is on the other side of the door. A few seconds later, the husband comes. Can I help you? Yeah, my name's Fletcher Ellingson. I'm from Washington State. I'm visiting my in-laws down the road. Saw the ping pong table. Wondering if anyone would want to play some ping pong. Do we know you? Nope. Just wondering if anyone wants to play ping pong. You just want to play ping pong? That's all I want to do. Anybody interested? Shuts the door. Just a second, and then shuts the door. Muffled voices. A few seconds later, a teenager opens the door and says, my dad said you're looking to play some ping pong. I said, yeah. Would you like to play? So I go out with this random teenager, and we play a couple of games. He whips me, and then I'm on my way. But you can see, this is incredible. And I mean, those are just a few.
Yeah.
I mean, just a few. But what I learned was this. More people said yes to my ridiculous requests than no.
Wow.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I got my TV show. I mean, I've got this regional television show. I got it through an experiment, the Rejection Experiment.
Nice.
They don't know me. They didn't know what I did. But I said, I'd like to have a television show where I can get in front of a wider audience with meaningful content, with feel-good content, with content that builds people up. And so I went and sat down with the owner of the company and said, here's what I'm thinking. What do you think? And the answer was yes. And so my wife and I have had this show. We just celebrated I think we're on episode 112 or 120. I mean, we've been doing this TV show now and
Nice.
interviewing a lot fun people, and it's just been super fun. But what I learned was that people will usually say yes if we are brave enough to ask. And so now incredible things are happening in my life because I have gotten past my fear of rejection. Now, you asked a really good question, gypC. And by the way, I should have said this way earlier, but if you guys have questions, jump in, because I'm like a monologue here, right?
Go ahead. You
Right,
can.
yeah.
But what you said was this thing about fear. Now, fear is every emotion has a message. So I don't believe there are good, bad, negative, or positive emotions. Every emotion has a message. And the message of fear is that you might be in danger, right? You might be in this thing you're doing or going to do. You might be in danger. But I realized that fear is hyperactive. It's just hyper vigilant. It turns everything into fear.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, we learned, I don't know about you, class, but did I have to overcome some fear when I was street performing?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Oh man. And in the early days, I was brutal. I'm looking for corners. I'm like, is this one okay? Can I get a crowd here? Am I taking up too much space? Or people think I'm going to be crazy. Oh my God, there was so much fear about everything.
Yeah.
Right. But here's what I discovered as well.
Excuse me.
There's a wonderful gift in fear. There's a beautiful gift in fear. It's the only time that you can also choose courage. It's the one time that you can literally be courageous, is when you are also fearful. You can't be courageous unless fear is present. It's not possible.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Courage will not be found aside from fear. They travel together. It's a gift, but you have to exercise the gift. And here's what I want to really, for the people that are listening to this, the same thing is at the core of both fear and courage, this exact same fear. And that thing that is at the core of fear and is at the core of courage is nothing more than a story. All fear is a story, and it's future based. Fear is never, ever about what's happening right now. When you're fearful about getting on that stage, you're fearful about something that's going to happen. When I was fearful in all those rejection experiments, it was never about the moment that I was planning it. It was this future fear. It was about what might happen in the future, how I might look. I might look like a jackass. I might embarrass myself. Fear is all future based, and it's a story. And so what courage is, it's the beautiful gift. And courage is nothing but another story. But it's a story about what would happen if you walked through your fear.
Yeah.
Ooh, right? So courage is the literal act of concocting a different story that is empowering instead of disempowering. And that's the practice of feeling good. That is part of the practice. Part of the practice of feeling good is becoming a master storyteller, where you tell yourself empowering stories that propel you into action, that pull you forward instead of holding you back. And when people can get that for themselves, things begin to shift in their lives dramatically. It's pretty exciting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I learned that early on when I was a kid. It's like I kept doing, for some reason, I kept doing things even when I was scared. And I realized, oh, there's something there. But I didn't realize, I had to analyze it as an adult to realize there's value there. And that, so, I just kept doing it throughout my life. Of course, I have some fears that I haven't tackled, but I make it my mission. When I was early on, I realized that. So now I make it my mission to kind of break most of the fears that I have. Of course, there's always some, but I realized that value of, getting right on the other side of it. And
I love it.
that practice.
I love it. And has that served you well?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. Right. Way more fun to live life courageously than being stuck on the other side of fear, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, right on. Good for you. That's so rare. If you think back, gypC, who taught you that, or where did you get that insight, or was there a defining moment where you just decided to move past fear?
I kept trying to figure out as an adult, like, why did I do that? Like, I would be scared of, say, the dark or something, and I would still go in and do whatever I needed to do in the dark. Or like, just, it was a lot of instances where I was scared, but I was like, I'm not gonna say I'm scared. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna do it. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was my ego or I don't know, but once you experience it once and you just kept, you see something there and you just keep doing it. And
yes,
I don't know.
So what you're speaking to is you begin to practice it.
Yeah.
Right. You're like, oh, I did it. I got through that fear.
Yeah.
I'll get through this one too. And then the next, right. You begin making it a practice.
Yeah. You realize a lot of it is irrational as well. Like a lot of the things that keep you in that fearful state is sometimes irrational. Like you said, some of it is based on the future, and not really now.
Yeah. And I, it's so cool. It's a good conversation. I'm really appreciating this conversation because, just as I was saying, we practice being courageous. Well, we're very practiced at being fearful.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
We've like all the behaviors and habits that we have that don't serve us. We're just very practiced at them.
Yeah. It's really your self-conscious mind that's running your half the day anyway.
Yeah.
So
you got it.
Gotta keep reprogramming it.
It's all about the reprogramming. Some people, sometimes people would say, well, what do you do? How do you help people? It's like, oh, I just help them brainwash themselves, because that's really what it is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've already been brainwashed, right?
It's just trying to reprogram.
Yeah. You got it. We are a collection of our old programming. And that's why we just got to be like, does this program actually serve me? If it doesn't, let's chuck it and upload a new program.
Yeah.
Right. But the practice is so critical, because when you create new neural pathways, those can pair apart in a few days if they're not revisited, if they're not trafficked, right? If your brain is not using them, which is why the practice of feeling good. And when I say the practice of feeling good, I don't just mean happy. I mean, the practice of feeling good covers this. It's an umbrella that covers like feeling open, being willing, being ready, being optimistic, being accepting, right? Being loving, being warm, being courageous. All of these things are the practice of feeling good. They're ways of being. And big emphasis just on the practice.
Yeah.
So before we close it out, is there anything you'd like the audience to know, or special upcoming events?
Thanks. Thanks for asking that. what I want people to hear is this, is that you don't need to struggle. You don't need to do this by yourself. There are ways to get unstuck. There are answers and solutions and ways you can move forward powerfully. But you don't need to do it by yourself. Like, reach out. I know that in our Western culture, fuck it, I'll do it myself. I don't need anybody. No, that's not strong. We've been told that, like, that's strong. No, that's weak. Strength is saying, I need some help. I need some advice. I need some counsel. I need help moving beyond the results that I'm currently getting. I need help moving beyond this current level of thinking that I have. That's strength. And you don't have to do it all by yourself. You know, reach out to people. Reach out to me, or reach out to, like, whoever it is. Just reach out. Reach out to the people who have the results that you want. Learn from them. You don't need to do this by yourself.
I agree.
Thank you for that. I agree.
Good.
We've enjoyed the conversation. We've enjoyed speaking with you, and we really appreciate your time and consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love what you guys are doing. Thanks for having me on the show. And if you ever want to have some more fun conversation, let me know.
Yeah, and if you're ever in LA, come down to our studio. We do in-studio podcasts as well.
Hey, where do you go? Where are you in LA?
We're in downtown LA.
I'm going to be there in. I think I'm going to be down there in April. I think.
Okay.
I want to come and see you guys.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, we'll be here.
Are you guys going to be around in the month of April?
Yeah, we'll be here in April.
We'll be here.
Let's do it.
All right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right on, right on. My son just moved down there.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, my son just moved down there. I got to connect him with you guys.
Sure.
He's all into video and editing, and also I first of all, I just want to come down and connect with you, but I'll see what my son's doing, and maybe I'll drag him along too.
Sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
Definitely.
All right, you guys. Thanks so much.
All right.
Thank you, everyone, for listening.
And you can find all the information about the podcast at AmericanGypC.com. Thank you for listening. And consistent self-improvement.
And for some good vibes, you can definitely check out some of my music at Classic Carpenter. It's some links on the website, along as, also on all major platforms: Spotify, Apple Music, KLACCIK and CARPENTA. Some nice instrumental music, a couple of vocals. So thank you for everyone listening. Consistent self-improvement once again. Peace and blessings to everyone.